Hey everybody, good afternoon. My name is Jeremy Friedman. I'm a software engineer with Booz Allen Hamilton. I've been working on a combination of ATAK and WinTAK development for the past several years, a combination of core development and plugin development. Within the last year or so, I've also started to dabble a little bit in TAKX plugin development. And today this is not going to be any kind of a feature release. For that, I would defer to the TAK.gov feature release page and the Confluence on TAK.gov. This is just going to be strictly a high-level user training focused on ATAK. So, going to jump right into it here. One of the most important things with TAK overall is customizability. Not everyone is always going to want the same things. So to that end, a few years ago, there was a bit of a UI redesign, and with that, there's the ability to change your toolbar loadout. And so one of the ways that we can accomplish that is via the hamburger menu in the top right corner of the screen. If we drill into there and we tap on this pencil icon, it'll give us the ability to swap out buttons on the top of the toolbar that we may or may not want and swap them in from the drop-down on the right-hand side. Terminology-wise on ATAK, we typically call the pane that we see a drop-down. On ATAK, or on WinTAK, it's usually referred to as a pane. But in any case, yeah, so if I want to get rid of, let's say, the Bloodhound, simply drag it over the delete icon over there. Alternatively, you can toggle the visibility of items that you don't want to see in your hamburger menu by just tapping on the eye icon to toggle their visibility. At this point, you have the option of specifying a name for this new toolbar. I'll just keep it as a default for now, and then you can save it off. Once you've saved your toolbar configuration, you can then export it like so by tapping the export icon adjacent to the pencil icon. You can name it. I'm not going to export it right now, but if you were to export it, you could then send it off to other users in your group that might need the same configuration, might not want the standard loadout. You could do that via a data package, for example, which I will get to in a little bit. But in any case, once your receiving users have acquired that loadout, if they wanted to import it, what they could do, they could go into the settings icon over here, and there's an import button, and you would just load it up from your file system. So at this point, I'm just going to delete this new loadout, go back to my default for now. Okay, another quick little note on this toolbar at the top. Oh, I'm sorry about that. My bad. Bear with me 1 second. All right, apologies. So hopefully you didn't lose too much of that, but in any case, a quick note on the toolbar at the top here is that if you don't want to see it, if you need more screen real estate, you can just long press on the map to toggle the visibility of it. So speaking of customizability, I think it would be relevant at this point to start to go over some of the settings in ATAK. There's a whole slew of them. I'm not going to bother going over every single one. But at a high level, some good ones to take note of are your call sign and device preferences. This is where you're going to specify your call sign, your team, your role. Additionally, there are some reporting preferences in here, so you can specify how frequently you want to broadcast your SA for your marker over the network, things like that. You can also specify, if you drill down into device preferences, your GPS options. You can set it to an internal or external source, for example. And at this point, if I want to drill back out to the root level of the settings, I don't have to just tap the back button 5,000 times. There's a home button in the top right, so I'll go ahead and tap that. And then continuing down here, we've got network preferences. These are most relevant for configuring your TAK servers, if you want to add or remove them, connect or disconnect to them. Then we've got our tool preferences. Tool preferences are fairly common, consistent throughout the different TAK products, and in ATAK, what you're going to get if you drill down into specific tool preferences is your settings for all of your tools that come with ATAK out of the box. But additionally, if you have any plugins loaded that implement their own preferences, this is where you're going to find them. So a good thing to take note of there. You've also got some handy display preferences. If you want to configure things like, for example, the coordinate format that you're going to be looking at throughout the product. When you look at a coordinate, you can specify here MDRS, decimal degrees, etc. You can change your altitude display, HAE, MSL, feet, meters for the units, all things like that. And if I back out of there and scroll down a little bit more, there's one other one that I thought would be good to point out, which is throughout ATAK, there's a common dialog that you're going to see in the go-to tool, for example, where you can specify your location and specify that coordinate format. And if for whatever reason you only need to see a few of them and you don't care about the others, you can make sure that throughout ATAK, only the ones you care about show up by toggling them in this setting over here. So just good to take note of that. All right, and drilling back out, I think some other relevant information would be under ATAK documents. If you're more of a, I guess, power user, and you want to know what's going on in the directory structure in ATAK on the file system, and you want to know, for example, where is DTED stored, what kind of file structure is expected for it to work properly, you can find information like that in this location. And it covers a whole bunch of different subdirectories that might be relevant to your use case. Going back, I'm going to start going across all of the specific tools in ATAK one by one in chronological order here. So the first thing that we're going to show off is the contacts panel. This is where you're going to do all of your chatting with anyone that you want over your local network or your connected server connections. And everyone that you see in a list here, what you can do is, if you want to pan directly to them, you simply tap on their user icon. If you want to view their details, then you tap on the icon second most to the right, and it'll pan to them and open up their details pane, which you can scroll through to see various information. Finally, the furthest most icon on the right, if you tap it, you can chat with them. And when you engage in chat, you can do freehand text. You also have some preset options on the bottom toolbar there. You could toggle through them by tapping like so. You can also send attachments through chat. You can send map items that you can select in a multitude of ways by via direct map tap, via the overlay manager, lasso tool selection. You can also send files. All right, so backing out of there, another thing that you can do is you can chat with your teams. You can establish groups and chat with those groups and remove them. If you drill into this UI here, there's a workflow for that. And I think that is a good little overview of chat. And moving on here, we've got our handy overlay manager. This is where you're going to toggle the visibility of items on your map that you care about. I'm going to drill back to somewhere a little more relevant now. You also have, throughout the overlay manager interface, multi-select option in the top right. So this is where you're going to en masse delete or export items as you see fit. You have some different export formats available to you depending on the specific type that you're working with. You can also search for map items via text with this entry form up here. All right, moving on, we've got our maps and favorites. These are some of the default options that come with ATAK out of the box. I personally like to run usually with USGS imagery, but if you want to add your own map sources, you do have that available to you as an option. You can add some online sources from the bottom right over here, pump in your address, and some of the acceptable formats are WMS, WMTS, and WFS. And then if there is a specific location and piece of imagery that you are particularly fond of, you can navigate over here to the Favorites tab and say Add Current View. You can give it some name. And then if I pan elsewhere, select some different imagery, and then go back to Favorites and select what I had before, it'll go back to what you had. So moving on here, we've got our point dropper. Some of the options here might look a little bit different on civilian versus military versions of ATAK. Currently I'm running Civ. So to start off, you've got your basic markers. You've got your unknown markers. Sometimes people refer to it as a cauliflower, this yellow one here. You've got your neutral, hostile, and friendly markers. You can also specify subtypes. So if you don't want to drop a ground, but you want aircraft, there you go. you have your options in here. If you need to get more specific, there is another way to do that. For these types of markers, you can go into their radial, which I'll cover more in a little bit, drill into the details for that marker, and you can navigate to this type option, and from there you can specify more specific information for that track, like so. All right, going back to the point dropper, you can also import your own icon sets via the settings icon over here and remove them as well. I'm not going to adjust any of them right now. And as you drop markers on the map, like on WinTAK, there will be an option to see the most recent placed items if you tap the clock icon next to it. From here, you have options if you select the icon on the right to send, rename, or delete any icons that you've dropped. And moving on a little bit through some of the other icon palettes, we've got some mission-oriented ones. So this is a good moment to highlight the fact that different icons and map items in ATAK are going to give you different options in their radial. So for example, if you drop a sensor, the standard markers above in the military versions are called COT 2525. There's going to be a sensor FOV option. So if you want to drop a field of view cone, you just select the radial option for it. You tap the outward boundary for it on the map, and there you go. And if you want to make adjustments to it, you have options to do so via the radial. You can set the color for this particular type of marker. You can also make changes to it from its drop down as well. Some other basic icons that come out of the box for you. You've got your spot map. These are just different colored circle icons. You've also got your vehicle models. So these are some 3D models that you can drop, and there's some different options for how you render them. If you zoom in a good bit, you should see the model a little more clearly here. You can drop them as outline only. You can specify the color for them. And it can be, you have some different subgroups as well. It could be aircraft, automobiles, maritime, etc. Moving on here, we've got some other basic icon sets. I'm not going to go over all of them. But like I said, if you have your own, you do have the option of importing them into ATAK. All right. So then we've got our red X tool here at the top. If we tap it once and then we tap on the map, it'll place that tool, and we'll get a little widget in the top right that gives some elevation information and coordinate location information for it as well. If we tap it again, it's going to lock it in place so that subsequent taps on the map will not affect the location. And if we want to clear it, just long press it, and it's gone. And then moving forward, we got our Bloodhound. So for this one, it's going to create a range and bearing line that clarifies an estimated time of convergence between 2 points with a widget in the bottom left. So at this point, I've got it originating from my self marker. I'll set it to one of these vehicle models that I just dropped. And then that widget pops up with that ETA that I mentioned. Both of these markers are motionless, so we get no ETA, but if they were moving, you would. Going to clear that Bloodhound and continue working my way through some of the options down here in the hamburger menu. Another one of the tools that you get is a CATSIV. I'm not going to go into extreme detail with this one, but you get all the expected form items that you get with your CATSIV in there. You got your data package tool. If you want to add markers or anything really to a data package, you would tap on that plus icon, and you can add your stuff to it like so. Just tap on it. You can do lasso select like I said before. You have the option when you're building out your data package to add items to it as a new package, or you could push those items to an existing package. In this case, I'm creating a new one, and then it's built. At this point, you can send it directly to other users like so by tapping that send icon. You can send it to other users directly. You can send it to a server. If you do send it to a server, you'll be able to download it from the server by tapping on the top there, that download icon. You select the server. It's going to do a query, and you'll get a list of all the data packages on the server that you're connected to. It's going to show you some basic information for those packages, like the size of the package, who made it, its name, when it was created, that type of thing. You can filter and sort through these packages as needed. And yeah, so you can also multi-select, delete them, or export them. Multi-select is an option that appears frequently throughout the product. And then when you do delete a data package, you have the option of leaving the contents on the map or removing the contents within them from ATAK as well. So in this case, I'll just get rid of that marker. Moving on, we've got our basic drawing tools. I'm not going to go into too much detail on all of them because they're just the drawing tools. You got your circle, you've got your ellipse, you've got rectangles. You can draw freeform, polyline, or polygon, and you can draw it with the Categorization tool, like so. And this would be probably a good moment to start talking about geofences. So you can attach a geofence to any closed shape in TAK. And so if I drop a circle, you would do that via its radial. And what a geofence simply is a capability for these closed shapes whereby if a map item enters or exits the boundary of that shape, you're going to get an alert. So basically, you tap on the geofence icon, and you get this dialog here. So you can set your trigger. You can have it set to entry, exit, or both. In this case, I'll just do both. You can set the monitor for what type of markers that you want to qualify for creating that alert. In this case, I'll keep it on all. And you can also set an elevation, although that might be on WinTAK, so apologies if I got that mixed up. But for now, I'm just going to create this geofence. And if I drop a cot marker real quick, and I move it into it, then I should get an alert. So there in the bottom left, it says geofence breached. And if you tap it, it's going to go into the overlay manager, and there's a node at the top for alerts. And if you draw all the way down, it'll just tell you some basic information, who the marker was, and whether it's entry or exit, and at what time. So I'm going to go ahead and clear that alert, and back right out of there. Going to delete this whole geofence. Okay. So the next thing that would be good to cover down on would be the elevation tool. So if you want to toggle a heat map for your current view, you can do so by checking that box up there. And then take note of the widget in the bottom left that shows your color and altitude association based on the current extent of your map view. It'll update as that map view changes for those upper and lower bounds. And if you want to change the intensity, saturation, or value of the heat map, you can just drag these sliders. Additionally, you can drop a view shed, which will give you line of sight information in relation to the point at which it was dropped. So I'm just dropping a view shed right here. And for the seen and unseen portions of that view shed, you can specifically alter the opacity as needed. And if you want to set the view shed origin point to be a certain altitude above that marker, you can do so. In this case, I'll just increase it just to show that, you know, as you gain more altitude, you're going to have better line of sight, so it's going to turn more green, of course. And then you also have the option to create some contour lines. I'm not going to generate them right now, but this would be the UI for that. Moving on here, you've got this cool little first-person mode. I'm going to go somewhere a little more interesting. Speaking of which, if you tap on the bottom right widget here for your self marker, it'll automatically pan the map to yourself. So if I zoom in a bit and hit that first-person mode, you have the option to move forward, move backwards, up, down. And so it's just an interesting way to pan around the map a little bit. You also have a geofence button here. That's going to go straight to the overlay manager node that I showed earlier. You have the go-to tool. This harkens back a little bit to that preference that I mentioned where, oh, thank you, sorry. Okay, so you've got this go-to tool, and you can specify a location that you want to pan the map to. You can specify a marker here at the bottom that you want to drop at the point that you're traveling to once you do that pan. And there's that setting that I talked about where you can configure which coordinate options that you want to see there at the top. So moving forward, you've got the import tool. If you have, quick note on that, if you have plugins that can support the same file type, then as you go through this workflow, you're going to have a deconfliction dialog pop up and ask you which plugin you want to handle which file in which way. So quick note on that. And then as far as the import itself, you can do it via KML link, you could do it via HTTP, and you could pick it out from your SD card as well. All right, so if you want, you can also change between landscape and portrait mode by tapping on that orientation dialog. And if you want to look at your plugins tab, there's a way to get here from the settings as well. But this is just going to show you a list of all the plugins that you have available to you, and you can load them and uninstall them from this UI. If they're red, it's typically because they're incompatible, and if you tap on the paper icon next to it, it's going to generally give you some reasoning as to why. So in this case, I've got 5.4 data sync. It's not compatible with the current version I have, and that's why I can't load it. So you also have the ability to drop range and bearing tools from here. You could do your range and bearing circle, your dynamic and static range and bearing lines. The difference between the two is that you can only have one dynamic range and bearing line on the map at a time. And when you have that tool on the map, the way you would reorient it is by simply dragging the start and end markers. You can also drop a bullseye. A bullseye is effectively a marker with a bunch of spokes that pop out of it. And once the marker gets dropped on the map, its details will open up. You can change a few of the settings related to it, like the orientation of the spokes. So now they're going inward instead of outward. You can change, you can add range rings to them, specify their radius as needed. Additionally, there's a resection tool. So if you have two lines of bearing specified, and you want to see at what points they would converge, then you can figure that out by tapping the button in the bottom right. This line is actually not set up properly for that. Let me get another one. There we go. Yep, so this white dot is going to show you that information. So just another tool that's available to you. I'm going to go ahead and clear out those landmarks, continue on. You can also look at the track history. So this goes back to one of the radial options that I didn't mention before. If you have a marker that's dropped on the map and it moves around by default, its breadcrumbs will not be toggled on, so you're not going to get those tracks appearing. However, there is this breadcrumb option within the radial menu, so if you tap on it and then you subsequently move the marker around, you'll get those tracks. And another thing to mention is that within the radial menu itself, if it's got this yellow highlight and caret icon next to it, that's an indicator to you that there's a submenu associated with that radial option. So in the case of the breadcrumbs, if you long press on that, it'll drill into the submenu, and one of the options is to go into the track history tool itself. Within this tool, you can search for tracks for different markers, like so, on the server. You can also specify a date range for the tracks that you want to look up for the individual marker, and then you can perform that search. As far as moving markers on the map itself, it's a good opportunity to also mention there are multiple ways to do it. You probably just saw me doing the long press strategy. There's also within this radial fine adjust option. So if I tap on that, it's going to bring up some crosshairs, and then you can just drag along the map and hit confirm. It'll reposition the marker. There's also within here a range and bearing tool, so you can drop a line originating from that marker at a specific point. You can also set a polar coordinate entry. What this tool does is it lets you specify a range and bearing from which another marker should spawn in relation to the originating marker. So in this case, I'm going to say 90 degrees from this hostile at 500 meters, I want to drop a friendly. And along with the friendly marker itself, I want to also drop a range and bearing line. So if you do that, you'll see that's the result. Going to clear out all that stuff. The next thing I'm going to talk about is the route tool. If you want to drop a route, these are some of the legacy route types. Today I guess we'll do some swimming on land, and we're going to drop a manual route here. While you're constructing the route, it's good to note that if you do a long press, instead of dropping a typical vertice, you're going to get a checkpoint. Checkpoints are distinct from regular vertices and relevant because once you construct that route, they're going to show up within the route details pane. And from within them, you can set navigation cues, like so. You can pick an icon, and you can set text to go along with it. And where that's going to become relevant is if you navigate the route, which I'll do by hitting the Go button there. It's going to pan to you, and then as you approach that route, I'm obviously not right now, I'm not moving, you're going to get an indication of that navigation cue within this UI. So I'm going to clear out of the navigation UI for now and go back there to that route, which you can also access, by the way, of course, from the overlay manager. And yeah, so within this UI, you can access the details of the route. You can send it, you can navigate to it, you can edit it, you can reverse it. And yeah, so another thing that I'd like to highlight is the hashtag feature. Hashtags are very useful if you need to categorize your data. So as you generate content, if you go into its details, you're going to notice at the bottom there's a remarks section. So you could put any text in here that you want, but you can also specify a hashtag via the pound marker, and I'll just say test for now. And it's going to generate a hashtag. So basically, if you go into the overlay manager at this point, or if you just tap on the hyperlink that's generated within the remarks field itself, it's going to drill into the overlay manager, and there's a subsection for hashtags, and it's going to categorize all content within it. So if you don't want to have to manually go through that process every single time that you generate content, what you can do from the overlay manager is you can tap on this button to the right of the plus button to generate a sticky tag. I'll just do a test with 2 T's, add it, toggle it on. And so now, if I drop another marker, and I drill into its details, and it would be the same thing if I dropped a route, a shape, whatever, it's going to be categorized under that node in the overlay manager. So just a helpful way to categorize data. And while I'm looking at it right now, another thing that might be useful to you is the ability to toggle between having a map view that is track up or north up. To do that, you would simply tap in the top left on that little chevron. And yeah, there's one more customization option that I wanted to mention as well. Under display preferences, you can basically change the color, the foreground and the background of the buttons that you have on the top of the toolbar. It's somewhere in here, so I apologize, but oh yeah, here, toolbar customization. Okay, so by default, it's on the right side. If you flip this switch, it'll go to the left side. And like I mentioned, if you want to change the foreground and background, there are RGB sliders that you can toggle, like so. If it's going to be incompatible with a certain dark type of imagery, you'll get a little warning about it, just to let you know. And then you can reset it like so. So yeah, that's my basic ATAK training for today. Does anybody have any questions? I guess one other thing I would mention, sorry, just came to me. So if you want to quickly, if you have these drop-downs, they're all treated like a stack for any developers out there. So if you want to clear them all out, but you've got multiple of them on top of each other, you're going to have to spam your back button, like I am now, to clear out everything from today's demo. But if you don't want to do that, there's also this little button on the side of the pane. You can either tap it or drag it, and then it'll just collapse it. So that's a little handy. And I think that's everything that I had in mind for today. So I appreciate it. Does anyone have any questions? Oh, sorry, another thing just came to mind as this happened again, which is that if you're a plugin developer, one thing to note is that some of the panes, if you go into the settings from the pane itself, it will automatically drill into the settings specific to that tool. So I had the routes dropdown open, and I'm going to go into settings, and by default, automatically, it's going to drill into the route preferences. So if you're a developer and you want to leverage that capability, I believe on the dropdown receiver class itself, it's a method called setAssociationKey. So that's something that you can do from within your plugin. Yeah, so I think that's all I had. I appreciate it. Does anybody have any questions? Okay. Well, thank you guys. And I'll be back for the WinTAK one. And enjoy. Oh, I'm sorry. My bad. Yeah.
There we go. Kind of out there a little bit. You mentioned the boundaries. Is there a way to send any other alerts to any other devices automatically, like send a webhook or something to something outside of TAK or TAKServer? Is there a way to do that?
Yeah, so it depends like what exactly you're talking about. Like with a data package, for example, you can send it directly to a TAKServer. It doesn't have to be explicitly to another device. There are plugins out there that send content directly to a TAKServer as well. Yeah, and as far as, there's one other thing. So you're talking about like automatically sending stuff? Yeah, so there's another tool in here. It's a little hyper-specific. I don't know if it's going to cover down your specific use case, but it is the alert tool. So if you go in here, you can specify a specific alert, and that will automatically, once you flip these switches, send a broadcast out. So there is that as well. If there's more that I can help with answering that question, then feel free to follow up with me after. Find me here or on Mattermost. So, anything else?
So, I noticed you're using version 5.6 for 0.0 on this for ATAK. And when you loaded the plugin screen, one of the plugins that didn't load was like version 5.4.0. So I was wondering if there's a reason why within major versions the plugins are not compatible with the, a newer version of ATAK.
Yeah. So between 5.6, I think the most current release is 5.5, and that was pretty recent. What I did before this demo, I just went on our 5.5 branch and built that and loaded it onto the phone. So I'm not in charge of that branch and why it would be tagged for 5.6, but basically this is like a very current version of 5.5. And as far as incompatibilities, why this current version, really more of a 5.5, would not be happy to load a 5.4 plugin, it's likely because of like an API incompatibility between the versions. So that would probably explain something like that.
Okay, and I guess it seems weird to me, like with other applications, you're usually able to load like maybe within major versions, you can still load like an earlier plugin, but then with TAK, it seems like it's very version specific. At least I noticed that too when I was like dealing with some WinTAK development.
Right. Yeah, there might be more to the story beyond just the API incompatibility thing that I had in my head just now. I can follow up with you after to get into that a little bit more. There might be more involved there. So.
Okay, just a thought.
How plugins are handled in TAK itself, and it probably should have been a major change because it broke so many things.
Was that a question? Okay. Thank you. Yes, sir.
So you zipped by a few features that I was unaware of. So is there a single place you can point us to learn more about this stuff? And I'm dealing with a lot of new users constantly. Is there a single place I can point to them?
Yeah, so there is a user manual. Off the top of my head, I would imagine Confluence might have it. This is definitely something I could link up with you after. I'm just trying to think of where they're published. I think also on TAK.gov, you could probably find some documentation. I'm sorry? Yeah, that's a good point as well. So if I drill into settings here and go down to support, under ATAK documents, or ATAK support information. Yeah, so I'm not, because I'm sorry? Well, I was in here earlier and I was looking around. I don't think this is a user manual per se, what I've got available in here. I was showing off one of these earlier. But yeah, typically I did think that it's supposed to be included, and it probably is somewhere that I'm just not thinking of right now. Okay, all right. So is it in the same drill down that I went into and... Okay. All right, so I will try to figure out why that's not showing in the current version that I have.
Yeah, it'd be very useful if it was if I could get to it through these menus. I have guys out in the woods, they might not be able to get online. You know, so is there a way they can pull up the user? So what I'm hearing is there's probably a way they can pull up a user's manual from inside the app. Okay.
Yeah, so right now I'm under settings and documentation, and that's where I would expect to find it. It's probably something related to the way that I built this before this demo. It's not in there, but typically that would be the answer for all the TAKs. Maybe not TAK-X, but definitely on WinTAK. And yeah, online too, TAK.gov, Confluence. All right, anything else? Yes, sir.
So I'm going to try not to monopolize time. I can talk to you later as well with more specific things. So can you clarify first the internal versus external GPS source setting?
Yeah, so internal should be based off of the phone, and then for external, like if you had like a GPS puck type of thing connected to the device, that would be a situation where that would be relevant.
So what if you had a different app or plugin that was setting the GPS source on the phone? That would still be considered an internal GPS source.
I'm pretty sure that setting is exposed to plugins. I can't say for sure.
I can give you some more specifics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Find me. Okay.
Will do. Second, so there are a handful of different chat apps, or sorry, chat plugins available that different people have made that do different things. I guess, is there any thought that's gone into a way to consolidate them, or maybe make the GeoTAK more extensible so that you can add just the things that you want, so you don't have to install, 3 different chat plugins that all ostensibly do the same thing?
I think that these APIs for chat are extendable, and you have some leverage as far as which types of chat options that you want to leverage specifically. But as far as consolidation efforts for broader plugins that are out there, I'm not really tracking too much with that.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure. All right. Looks like that was it. So thank you, everybody. And I'll be back for WinTAK in a little bit. So thanks.